We're going to talk about Narcissistic Personality Disorder by the book. And the book is by the American Psychiatric Association, is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Now, that's a lot to say, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association. But narcissism is just plain old being selfish, being a selfish jerk. And we're all a little bit narcissistic about something. But narcissistic personality disorder is something different entirely. Everybody thinks codependency is a disorder. It is not. It's actually not in the diagnostic manual. It's not in here. But a lot of codependents get involved with narcissists or people with narcissistic personality disorder. And personality disorders are very hard to treat. So the diagnostic manual is really one of an insurance code book. We use it for coding, and NPD in the DSM-5 is 301.81, and in the medical, it's F60.81. So you don't really need to know that, but some people might, because it is a coded, treatable, billable illness, whereas codependency actually isn't. It could be seen as other things. And someday, hopefully they will get some form of codependency in there so people can get, reimbursement or some help to treat codependency. Because if you live with a narcissist, and I say never underestimate what it feels like to live with a narcissist, you can't change them, but it will change you. So let's go through the symptoms and criteria of narcissistic personality disorder by the book and what to do about it. And I'm going to go in between every one and say what to do about it. So the number one criteria they list is a grandiose logic of self-importance. They have a very high opinion of themselves. Now, it's good to have self-confidence. It's another thing to think you're better than everyone else. Wow. So what do you do about that? Just allow them to think they're better than you sometimes. Really, that's all you can do. Sometimes you may have to call them out, but whatever you do, what's not in this diagnostic manual is how they react if you criticize or if you confront. Just be prepared if you want to confront a narcissist to have a very fast horse to get away on. So yes, you can confront them, go right ahead, but be prepared for what they may say or do, because you can be destroyed by these people. So make sure you don't need them, want them in your life. Just be very sure. If you do need them in your life and they treat you as an inferior, then by all means, you're going to have to use diplomacy to protect yourself. The second criteria is a fixation with fantasies of infinite success, control, brilliance, beauty, or idyllic love. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Yes, but a narcissist really believes that they deserve it all the time. A narcissist will not be alone. None of us like to be alone, but narcissists can't be alone. They need an entourage. They don't want an entourage. They need an entourage. They will keep track of all their friends on social media. They don't have a concept that it's not a reality, or, that these are just, social media contacts. They need a lot of people, and they keep people around for fuel. They've got to have people on call. They've got to kind of have people on staff. They have an A team. They've got their close inner circle. And if they fail, they will find someone else, because they love bomb and discard and love bomb and discard. And they use intermittent reinforcement. So when they have these fantasies of infinite success, control, brilliance, beauty, or idyllic love, I'm going to go to the middle word there, control. This is all about control. If I could boil this disorder down to one word, it would be control. And no one likes to be controlled. We all have what's called reactance formation. And that means reactance is a great thing. We have it for autonomy. But if I told you you could never eat a carrot again, all you think about is carrots. So narcissists do not like to be told what to do, but they do love to tell everyone else what to do. Sometimes they do this in a very covert way. They'll do it through suggestion. May I make a suggestion? Or I really care about you, so here's what I want to say to you. Be very careful of people who interrogate you a lot too, because they interrogate, they infiltrate, they isolate, and they alienate you from people. So be very careful. Also not in here. The isolation of you by other people is not in this criteria. So it's good to read up on some of the other things they do, but what to do about it. If they have these, fantasies of control or brilliance or beauty or idyllic love, you can just buy into it with them, unless it really matters to you for some reason. It may or may not, but you can just admire them. I mean, the word narcissus came from a Greek god who stared at himself and he starved himself to death because he kept saying, I'm so wonderful. And then the goddess Echo was behind him, and all she could say was the last thing he said. So if he said, I'm so handsome and wonderful, she would say, you're so handsome and wonderful. Well, they both went insane. He passed away, and she just went completely insane. Do you see what I mean? She was the codependent. He was dependent on her to tell him how wonderful he was, and she was codependent with him, and a very, very dangerous dynamic indeed for anyone who's involved with a narcissist. So now we see that the next criteria is a credence that he or she is extraordinary and exceptional and can only be understood by or should connect with other extraordinary or important people or institutions. Oh boy, this is something that's really, really bothersome, because you know what? There are some important people and institutions that are wonderful. I know I used to work in show business. I get it. But one thing I learned from show business is that stars are people too. Sometimes they just wear shinier clothes. Sometimes they might have more money. Sometimes you might perceive they have more money. Sometimes you think fame might be wonderful. But I will tell you that being on the inside of that, I've seen a lot of heartache, that money really can't buy you happiness. And a lot of people that are in show business are not narcissists. They're just little wounded children seeking attention as adults. And it just seems to be never enough. They are more the codependent type, actually, when they're just trying to become somebody else as a character and as a, in a song. And I used to do the same thing. So I am not criticizing actors by any means, or singers. I used to be one. So you step into another role of being somebody else, and it kind of relieves your anxiety that you don't feel like you're good enough. Am I enough? Am I enough? Am I enough? That famous Sally Field speech. Oh, you like me. You really, really like me, when she won her Oscar. We liked her before she won her Oscar, but she needed that statue to know that. But she was not a narcissist. She's just a hardworking actress. So do you see how she was looking for approval from where she didn't receive it as a child? So what do you do if they tell you this? I've had many people tell me, oh, you went, you can't go to that school. You can't do this. You can't do that. I will tell you, you can have the Ivy League education and not have any common sense. You can have an education from a school that's cheaper, and you can make so much more money than somebody else. There's many, many blue collar millionaires out there. This is not about grandiosity. This isn't about prestige. I mean, how many people have we heard about in history, especially in history repeats itself, that have the titles and the brilliance and the gifts, but they don't have a dime. So, you can have all of the prestige and be included in all the right clubs and do all the right things, but you can be completely broke, or you can be or broken. You can be completely broken too. And that's really rough. So the next thing will not come as a surprise to you. Now, what do you do when they want to be telling you which institution to go to and which doctor to see and which lawyer to see and who you must have? Well, you just say, thank you. Thank you so much for telling me. Thank you so much for your suggestions. I really appreciate that. Just say you appreciate it. Doesn't mean you agree with it. And start using benign statements when they really hammer on you about, oh, you're not in the right place. You don't live in the right neighborhood. You don't say the right things. You don't wear the right clothes. You don't have the right handbag. That's not important. If it's not important to you, it shouldn't be important to them, but they'll make you think it's important. Don't let them make you feel diminished in any way, shape, or form. You're fine just the way you are. And if you're not fine just the way you are, you have a right to change that. You don't have to have someone else tell you how to change it, or what to wear, or what to say, or what to do. Oh, and please watch out again for the may I make a suggestion things that narcissists will say. May I just make a suggestion? Watch out for that. That's what you need to watch out for, because if you tell them, you're having, if you're going to a plastic surgeon or something to go get work done, they're going to tell you all about their plastic surgery and how their surgeon's better. And you haven't even told them who your surgeon is yet. It could be the same person. So just be aware that they have this grandiose need to make themselves feel important about everything. The next one should not surprise you. It's very similar to it. It's a desire for unwarranted admiration. And unwarranted is the operative word there, because we all would like to be admired. I mean, that's not being narcissistic. We all like to be admired. I mean, if you make a beautiful cake, you don't want everybody to just cut into it and just eat it. you would love for people to go, oh, what a beautiful cake. And oh my gosh, gosh, it's delicious. It tastes as good as it looks. That's not narcissism. That's everybody wants admiration, but unwarranted admiration would be if a narcissist brought a cake to a party and everybody said, oh, you're so amazing to buy this beautiful cake. And oh, it tastes so good. It's got to be all about you. They'll make everything all about them, no matter what it is. And it's unwarranted because it's not commensurate with what they've done. Now, they also have a sense of entitlement. And this sense of entitlement is really, really serious because they truly believe, and they honestly believe it with all their hearts. And this is what makes narcissistic personality disorder so hard to heal or cure or help or change, because that sense of entitlement is just hardwired in there. Because the actual definition of narcissistic personality disorder is a persistent manner of grandiosity, a continuous desire for admiration, and along with a lack of empathy. And it begins in early adulthood, and it has these criteria that we're going through now. That early adulthood, that make or break year, sometime between, tweens to 20s, is when you'll start to see these narcissistic personality disorder things really start to rear their ugly head. You can see it in little children too. So if you have a bossy child, teach them to lose occasionally. Don't let them win all the time. Don't constantly admire them. This thing where everybody gets a trophy. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Just use with caution if you have a narcissistic child, because they hate to lose and they will find a way to not lose. They really, really will, because they have that sense of entitlement. Now, what do you do if someone has a sense of entitlement? You just don't buy into it. You just ignore it. Seriously, that's all you do. Just think, well, I know you may feel that you're entitled to that, but you're not. And that's all you say. And you can even say, well, thank you for thinking that, I would give you this or do this for you, but I can't. But thank you for understanding. That thank you for understanding is a great way to walk away from anything that a narcissist might ask of you, because they will ask magnanimous things of you that they would never do for you. Never. That, they would want you to be there all the time for them, but they will not do the same for you at all. So just remember that and expect less of them and more of yourself, that you don't buy into their sense of entitlement. And then another criteria is they're interpersonally exploitive and oppressive. Now, this is pretty serious stuff, because they will exploit and they will oppress, and it will make you depressed. When you are exploited, part of it's your fault. I mean, I don't like to use the word fault very often, but if you allow someone who's narcissistic to hurt you over and over and over, and I certainly have, I would be one of the worst offenders of that. I'm sitting here telling you, absolutely, I know what it's like to believe the best and the worst of people. I've talked about this before, that Barbara Oakley wanted to call codependency, and they do have a book titled this, Pathological Altruism. And it is, because altruism means you believe the best. So if you believe the best and the worst of people, it's pathological for you. If you're always being of benefit to others to the detriment of yourself, which is what happens in that narcissistic and codependent relationship, you are going to just be exhausted. And finally, at some point, you have to realize it's a form of self-harm, that you're doing this to yourself. By allowing them to do this, you are doing it to yourself. So when you realize, and you're conscious of your subconscious, that you are pleasing them in order to relieve your own anxiety because they're pressing on you so hard, you will finally stop being oppressed by them, because you're aware of what they're doing. They're using tactics to wear you down. The war of attrition is one of their favorite things to do. They just wear you down and wear you out till you give in and till you give out, because they have the next criteria plays right into this. They have no form of empathy. Now, sometimes it says no or little, but they have some empathy. But here's what I say about narcissistic personality disorder. And I'm going through the book here too, because it's a lack of empathy, and they lack it, and they're unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings or needs of others. That is absolutely true statement. I take it one step farther though. I think they lack empathy even for themselves. I really do. It's like the reactance formation. If they tell you what to do and you don't want to do it, they take that very harshly. But if you tell them what to do, oh my goodness, they are just all over you. You cannot tell them what to do. And if they do take your advice or anything goes wrong, everything's your fault. And if you ask them a question, the answer is going to be it's some form of your fault. If you say, why are you so mean? The answer is going to be it's your fault. Watch out for that, because they have no empathy even for themselves. Now, what does that mean when I say that? Well, I notice that narcissists, as they age, don't realize that people don't want to be around them, that they start losing some friends, they start losing some family members. They can't use that youthful glowing charm and the cool smile, and their wicked ways just don't work as well when they're older. They just can't keep it up. So I think they lack empathy even for themselves later in life, because they end up very lonely sometimes. These are often the people you see in nursing homes when people say, oh, that poor old man or poor old woman, nobody's coming to visit them in the nursing home. They might be the family narcissist. They might be the family child molester, abuser. So they're never at face value. Be very careful, because narcissists are very good at hiding what they are. And remember that empathy or a lack of empathy is so dangerous for you, because they do not feel the way you feel. If you tell them, I'm sorry, I can't help you, I just got out of the hospital, they don't care. If you set a boundary with them, they don't care. I have a whole video on don't set boundaries with a narcissist, because they'll just barrel right through them. They don't have any empathy for your boundaries, for your needs, for your truth. They don't let you finish sentences. They don't listen. They'll act like they're listening, but they're gathering information. If they are intently listening and you know they're a narcissist, watch out, because they might be gathering information to use later. Truly, because go back to the other criteria, they're exploitative. So also, they think that people are envious of them, and they do envy other people. And sometimes the envying other people is a secret. They're very critical of others. And again, boy, don't criticize them. So if you do want to say something to a narcissist and you want to speak your truth, be very quiet about it. Just take a deep breath and just say things like, well, that's your opinion. If they say, you shouldn't be wearing that, say, thank you for your opinion, or that's your opinion, but I like it. When you don't cave in to their criticism, and don't give any back, and you take no offense and give no defense, you're going to have a whole lot better time with this. So much better. And they're so very, very charming. That's not in here, but that's not in the criteria. But I will tell you that they're very, very charming. Watch out for that. And they do show arrogant, haughty behaviors and attitudes. Boy, those arrogant, haughty behaviors and attitudes, they're very prevalent. And you can just pick them out. You can see them in a crowd. Now, there are covert narcissists, and we call them fragile or vulnerable narcissists. These are more like the quiet ones. They play the victim a lot, and they're just pitiful, and it's awful. So what do you do with that kind of narcissist? Same thing you do with the other. You recognize it. And when you recognize behavior, you can neutralize it. It's because you don't want them to ever come after you. Honestly, you don't. Anything you can do to protect yourself from narcissistic abuse, because narcissistic personality disorder does usually come with some form of retaliation if you stick up for yourself. So if you don't stick up for yourself overtly, then covertly they won't harm you. So remember to just be calm and confident. And I have a book coming out very soon called How to Navigate the Narcissist, a compass when you can't go no contact. Because honestly, I'll just give away the first sentence in it. If you think there's not narcissists in the world or people with narcissistic personality disorder, that's kind of like going to the ocean and swimming and saying there aren't sharks out there. There are, you just can't see them, but they may see you or smell you. Now, I've heard it said, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this to protect you as a codependent. I get very weary, and I like to be a little bit of a rebel and bust some myths of mental health stuff, because it's discovery and recovery. A lot of people say, oh, well, you're attracting narcissists. No, you're not. They are attracted to you. Remember, they have no empathy. Most people have empathy. They are attracted to people with lots of empathy, which is usually a codependent. They are attracted to you. You're not attracting them. But if you don't recognize what they do after they infiltrate your life, that's when you'll get in trouble. Just when they gain your confidence. And the word con man came from the word confidence man. They gain your confidence, and then they crash it and smash it and crush it. and you stand there thinking, what happened? That's when the trauma bond starts. That's the beginning of it, when they make you self-doubt. When you doubt yourself and you believe in them, that's when a narcissist usually comes in and swoops in with intermittent reinforcement. They're wonderful and horrible, and sometimes simultaneously. Let me show you how that works simultaneously, where they can love bomb and discard in one sentence. They can say, boy, you look great in that dress, but wouldn't you feel better if you lost 20 pounds? Wow, they were wonderful and horrible in the same sentence. So spread that out over time. And again, if you live with someone with narcissistic personality disorder, you cannot change them, but they will change you. But you can change your response to them and your reactance to get your reactance higher. Say just, no, I'm not going to do what you say. I hear what you say, but I'm not going to do what you say. Find diplomatic ways to say it. And then jot down, you can look up the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, Narcissistic Personality Disorder, and go next to it and write about the narcissist in your life. That's the best thing you can do, because I can only give you blanket statements. I don't know all of your I don't know all of the ramifications of how the narcissist has infected or infiltrated your life. So you make your own list of how you can handle this. And I do, like I said, I do have a book coming out about it. Because if you think that you are, if you think that you are not going to meet narcissists, I say in my book, it is like going into the ocean and pretending there's no sharks in there. There's narcissists everywhere. You just don't see them, but they do see you. You know, like if you're thrashing around in the water, a shark will notice you. If you're codependent and you feel needy and you're empathy and just looking to give, they're looking to take. They really, really are. So watch out for your give and take, because when you compare and contrast a codependent with a narcissist, it's pretty serious. And we'll have another video on that. We'll compare and contrast a narcissist and a codependent to show you how that bond is so strong and how to watch out for that. Like I said, you're not attracting them. What they are is attracted to you, and then you're responding to it. You're responding to their love bombing, and you don't know what to do when they discard you or remove that love bonding. All of a sudden, you're left with nothing but self-doubt. But don't doubt yourself. You are not disordered. They are. And I hope that you've learned something, and make a statement below if you have, and I'll let you know when the book comes out. Thanks a lot.